Just waiting for the oil level to register. Hey guys, welcome to the workshop. Today we're going to be doing an oil change on a Porsche Cayenne Diesel. They only had these cars for a handful of years, so they're sort of rare. There's a couple things involved with it that are different than doing a traditional oil change, such as the diesel exhaust fluid, which I'll show you how to get to and how to top that off as well. An oil change like this at the dealership could cost you upwards of $400. We are going to do this here for right around $100 for all the parts. Your time obviously is your time. So here we go. Looking at the materials we have, we're using a Motul oil filter element. Okay. Fantastic product. They make filters for all sorts of German vehicles. This is perfect for this car. We're using a Motul product for our engine oil, 5W30 8100 X-Clean. So it does meet all the standards for diesel engines. The engines run a little bit dirtier. We need to make sure we've got all the detergents and additives in the oil to help clean it out. These cars do have about a 10,000 mile interval. Just like every vehicle, I would recommend doing it every 5K. And that's what this gentleman is doing here. And so we're going to take care of it for him. The diesel exhaust fluid that we're just using a AdBlue product, which is perfectly fine for these vehicles. You could buy the Volkswagen product that is out there. It's really what's available and what's accessible for you. This is sold at pretty much every parts store and through part suppliers. But once again, if you wanted to, you could order the product from the dealer themselves. And there is very little, if any, difference between this product and the Volkswagen product. Got the hood pop. This has a single pull underneath the driver's side of the dash. And then we go ahead and secondary latch right here, pull up on it. It's right underneath the Porsche crest. This will expose underneath the hood here. There's a couple things to look at. Obviously, we want to top off our washer fluid while it's here. Our diesel fuel filters over here, which we'll do at a different service interval. And then our oil fill cap is right up here as well. The plastic cover on these comes off relatively easily. Set that to the side. And once that's removed, we can access our oil filter cap, which is right here. This is a plastic cap. It does go into a plastic housing. We do want to be careful that we do torque that correct spec. Don't want to split the cap or the housing itself. All right, I'm going to go ahead and remove the oil fill cap. I like to do this on any oil change. It allows atmospheric pressure to help push down into the crankcase and drain all the oil out. Also want to let you know that this engine is up to operational temperature. We did just drive it about 20 miles. Everything should flow out perfectly. You want to heat these things up to operational temperature before you do oil changes. That way the oil is running thin and everything flushes out of the system. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to crack the oil cap loose. Just using a 3/8 ratchet and a 27mm socket. We're going to go until this thing is completely loose, but we're not going to take it out at this point. Cap is loose. This will allow any of the oil that's sitting inside of the filter housing to drain down to the bottom of the pan. Once again, the goal here is to get all the oil out of the system. Also, when we go to remove this oil filter element later on, hopefully most of the oil is drained out of it. It's not going to make a mess as we pull it out. Up, up, and away. Right now, we got to remove the plastic lower engine cover, and that way we can access the drain plug and get the oil draining out. A bunch of 10mm. Go ahead and zip them off with your electric impact. You got one. If you're doing this in your driveway without a lift, this could be a bit of a pain in the butt, especially if you don't have some kind of electric. Another good reason to pull these off too is you get a great shot underside of the engine. You can check for coolant leaks, oil leaks, anything like that. Always good to catch those things before they become a real big problem. All right, so we're underneath the car right now. The drain plug on this is at the very back of the oil pan, and it's really close to the subframe. So when the oil comes out, a lot of times you're gonna get some that hits the subframe. We can try to avoid that by using some kind of cover, or they have these flex filters, which I'm gonna use. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna break this loose, and then I'll put that flex filter in place, and then that should divert all the oil into the catch pan as opposed to all over the subframe. And it looks like whoever did the oil change last might have got a little bit of oil on that as well. And we'll clean that up while we're in here. This is a 6mm hex bolt, and I've got that loose now. Let's grab a flex funnel. Go ahead and wedge that up here in the subframe, and then we'll pull that drain plug out. And hopefully all the oil is going into our drain bucket and nothing is getting onto that subframe. You can see how dark the oil is coming out of this diesel. That's normal. Don't be worried about it. That is just proof right there that these things really do run quite a bit dirtier, and it's really important to get the correct oil for these. So the drain plug on these comes with a copper crush washer, and you do need to replace that crush washer. That's the crush washer. Here's your drain plug. Unfortunately, Mahle, when they make these oil filter kits, they do not come with a new crush washer. You'll have to order that separate, or you can purchase a assortment pack of different size crush washers, which I have, and we'll just match one up with the drain plug and get the right one. So I just purchased this off Amazon. It's pretty much a catch-all. We've got all different kinds of sizes. If you're using one consistently, obviously jot down the size, and you can probably order a 20-pack of that specific one. I'm just going to go ahead and match one up right now. Fits our drain plug. Bingo. All right, so our oil has pretty much stopped draining out of the sump. It goes real quick if everything's at operational temperature. We just have a couple drips coming out at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and re-secure this drain plug with that new copper washer. Always start these by hand, never use an impact. And once you get a couple threads in, you can use your ratchet to snug it down, and then we'll want to torque that to spec. All right, so I've got my digital torque wrench. This is made by Matco Tools. Use whichever brand you want. Just make sure it gets calibrated. I think every 3 years is what they recommend for automotive use. And I've got this set to 30 Newton meters. I'm gonna go ahead and torque this down. The nice thing about these torque wrenches is they light up and they also vibrate when you hit the torque. So we just hit 30, just double check it. And now we are tight. And we're gonna clean some of that oil off. And then as always, I mark my drain plug, a little bit of this torque check. That way if I ever concerned that I didn't torque that, I can look underneath the car. I see that blue on there. I know I'm good to go. All right, so that's all torqued up, and we're gonna go ahead and put those lower covers back on, and we'll change the filter out and fill it with oil. All right, guys, here's a little tech tip for you. When we're reinstalling these lower covers, we've got all these 10mm bolts, okay? They do get exposed to the elements. They can rust in place. It can be a nightmare to get them back out. They can break the little clip threads they go into. So when you reinstall them, I use just a little bit of grease on them, and this is a white lithium grease, and I just put a little bit on each one of these bolts, as you can see. And then when I reinstall those covers, that grease works its way into all the threads, and hopefully we don't have any rust when we take them out the next time. A couple of those started. Especially if you're doing your own services and oil changes, make your life easier. All right, now we're back up top here. We're going to replace the oil filter element. So we already loosened that cap earlier. I've got some extra rags here, and I pulled the oil filter out. Hopefully there's no oil left in it, but there's going to be a couple drops. We want to catch those so they don't drip down in the engine compartment, and pull that off. Got the oil filter out. We're going to replace the O-ring on this cap. Our new kit does come with that O-ring. Go ahead and slide that down this bottom groove. And then I take a little bit of oil that's down inside the cap there, and you're just going to lubricate that O-ring. That way when you twist it in place, it doesn't get caught, stretched, or damaged. We can install our oil filter. And you'll notice this has a little nipple on the top here, and that does have an O-ring as well. I want to make sure we get a little bit of oil on that as well. And we'll go ahead and install this. We want to be careful too that we line this little nipple up with the recess in the oil filter housing. If we go ahead and tighten this down, we could snap that off, and that would cause some issues. So make sure that gets keyed before we start tightening it down. And it should find its home without much issue. And if you can twist it down by hand, obviously, you're in the right spot. So I'll go as far as I can by hand before I get my ratchet. And this cap's got a 25 Newton meter torque. We want to make sure we torque that as well. Grab my torque wrench and we'll torque that thing. There we go. And just like with the drain plug, I put a little bit of this blue torque check on here. Once again, just lets me know I was in here. Also creates a memorable moment. So when I think back on this service, I know I did in fact torque that oil cap. All right, so drain plug's torqued. Our oil filter has been replaced and torqued in. And now we're going to go ahead and fill up the oil on this. And these vehicles take about 8 quarts of oil. And you can use a funnel for this if you want. These Motul jugs come with that nice kind of faucet off the top here. Really makes it easy so you don't spill. When you're filling these up, these have a electronic oil level sensor. I would always go a little bit under the spec and then run your measurement and then top it off. It's a real pain to drain the oil back out if you overfill this. And then we're gonna run the level sensor and see where we're at. These jugs do have labels on the side, tells you how much is left inside of it. So you wanna frequently check that, just make sure you don't overfill. All right, we'll go ahead and put the oil cap back in place, wipe off any oil residue. And now we can go ahead and fire this thing up. We'll leave the cover off at this point. That way we can make sure no oil is leaking out from our oil filter cap. We'll also want to check underneath it, make sure nothing's leaking from the bottom either. Topping off the washer fluid while we're doing this oil service. Not a bad idea to always check the coolant, check the washer fluid, power steering fluid if it's got it. This thing was bone dry. Oil change is pretty much wrapped up at this point, but we do have to top off the diesel exhaust fluid. And for whatever reason, to access this, it is in the back of the vehicle. We're going to pop the rear hatch and we're going to go digging underneath the spare tire, and I'll show you exactly where we fill this thing up at. So here's your spare tire. If you look down between the spokes on this, you'll see a little black cap here. It says AdBlue, and that's your DEF or diesel exhaust fluid. And just to make life easier, I'm going to take the spare out. You can kind of weasel in there, pop that thing up and do it on your own. Just snake a funnel down, but we'll go ahead and pull this off. And we'll pop the cover. And here's the cap for it. As ridiculous as this may seem, these cars do monitor how much of this fluid is in it. If it begins to run dry, it'll give you a message saying the engine will not be able to start in a certain amount of miles. That is not a joke. If you run out of diesel exhaust fluid, the car will not start, and you will have to tow it to the dealership so they can hook it up to the factory scan tool and clear those faults out, top off the fluid, and then get you back on the road. But it's a very expensive mistake. If you're doing your own services, keep this thing topped off. If you get that warning message, make sure you pull over and get some DEF fluid in your system. So if you're unaware of what DEF is, or diesel exhaust fluid, this is a fluid that is sprayed into the exhaust system to help with the emissions. The diesel vehicles try to cut down all the particulates that come out of them, a very strict standard. And so this fluid mixes with the exhaust gases, has a chemical reaction, which essentially turns those exhaust gases into normal breathable gases out in the environment. All right, so most of these AdBlue containers come with some kind of funnel. And just to let you know, you can buy these at gas stations. There's so many vehicles that use it. All the diesel Ford trucks out there and Chevy trucks have it. So if you do run out, you can buy this. It is readily available. But they do come with this kind of spout on it, and we're going to try to snake this down here. This stuff is pretty nasty and corrosive. If you spill it, it starts to crystallize, and it can be really difficult to clean up. It can also destroy concrete. If you get it on your concrete floor of your house or your shop, try to clean it up as soon as possible. We're going to do our best to try to not make a mess here. I'm actually going to get a funnel to make it a little easier. You want to be kind of careful. It's easy to overfill these. There's no easy way to see what the fluid level is. You're kind of just dumping it in and checking every once in a while to see what the level's at by looking down into that hole. And I think we're there. So I'm gonna grab some rags and some cleaner. We'll clean up the couple splashes that are here and there, and we'll go ahead and put the spare tire back in, and then we're all set with the diesel exhaust fluid. So through the instrument cluster here, we're able to check the oil level, and we have to wait until it warms up to operational temperature, which hopefully doesn't take too long. But you'll get this message that shows information on oil level is currently not available, and that just lets you know it needs to get up to temperature. Not a big deal. So we'll let this thing idle for a little bit, get the temperature up. You could drive it as well if you wanted to. Once again, we want to verify there's no leaks. We know we have 8 quarts in it. Just want to make sure that we're right at the spot it should be, and if we need to top it off, we can. So right now we're checking to see if there's any leaks, specifically right where the oil cap meets the oil filter. That's where that O-ring that we put in, the green one, is keeping all the oil in the system. If that oil O-ring got cut or damaged, then we'd have oil seeping out here, and it would come out quite quickly. But this all looks dry, so we're good. The other place you want to check is always keep underneath the car, make sure nothing's dripping out of it. Everything looks good down there. So now we can go ahead and put the cover back on, and we'll just wait for that oil level monitor to tell us what the level is. After about 20 minutes of running this car at idle and kind of revving it up here and there, we're able to get the oil temperature up to 200 degrees. And then we parked the vehicle, flat surface, shut the key off, and then using the scroll on the steering wheel, we went over, and I can show you how to get there. Once you have the displays reading the temperatures, we just go ahead and push on the scroll button, go down to oil level, push on the scroll again, and there is our reading. We are just below max, which is perfect. Oil change complete, less than $100. Keep watching, subscribe if you like the content, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the next project.